Hi, host Eric here, talking with famous people. I'm here with a bunch of famous people, and on camera we've got Mr. Haberdasher and Eccentric M, the NFPs. Mr. Haberdasher just voiced something that I want to address directly because I think it's important that it be sort of the default paradigm here. Is at least as long as I'm in the room, or this is how my paradigm is, and anybody can come at any different angle they want. But my position is, if you said something that was quote unquote dumb or embarrassing, then you did an excellent job of taking one of those rocks out of your bag and throwing it in front of us and saying, "What can I do with this fucking rock?" And what I want TWFP to do is say, "Let's break that rock into little dust so you don't have to carry it around because we can. You just think metacognate the shit out of it until it goes away. You have nothing to be embarrassed about. You're welcome here. We're thrilled to have you. I'm thrilled to have you." And you haven't said a single thing embarrassing as far as I'm concerned. Remember, I will embarrass myself at least 10 times as often as anybody else. I'll do it every episode by talking too much. A little bit. I'll embarrass myself. Every viewer is going to be slightly cringy, like Eric's not quite pulling this off. That's every fucking episode. You have a mountain as high as Everest to climb to even touch the amount of embarrassment that I've already piled up before breakfast this morning.
I
So
think you have a cool vibe, Eric. I like it.
thank you, Eccentric M. It's because of that really meted out, self-deprecated dance I just did right there. That's why. That's what makes it work. Make it too meta? Okay. Anyway, let's move. I want to get that message across, though. I really do want people to feel comfortable here, and I want people in general to feel comfortable with their own failure. I believe in embracing failure as the process. That you're, oh, I know I'm doing the right thing now because I'm failing. I'm I'm making shit happen, and I'm figuring out what works and what doesn't. Failure is good. Let's talk about failure. QB sauce. You want to talk about failure? Famous person QB sauce. Famous person Hamido Diallo. Do you want to talk about failure? What does failure mean to you?
Not accomplishing your goals.
So, non-completion
Yeah.
within the time frame. Because if you have no time frame, then you could just be still in progress.
Yeah, within a time frame.
How do you? When is the time frame determined?
It depends on what I'm doing. Like, for example, if I'm learning how to like code, I want to be able to master a language in like 3 months. And if I don't do that, I consider that a failure.
If you mastered a language in 2 weeks, would you ship that goal line?
Wait, can you repeat that?
Let's say you tried a new language tomorrow and you mastered it in just 2 weeks. Would you shift that goal line so that then you expected yourself to master one in 2 months instead of 3 months?
No. Also, I'm like programming language.
I know what you're talking about. I'm saying if you were to realize or accomplish one in much faster than the time frame you set up for yourself, would that would you keep the same time frame for future projects, or would it cause you to shift the time frame?
Uh, Possibly like shorten it by a little bit. But I wouldn't put it to like 2 weeks because that's unrealistic.
What happens if you so and you're with the consequence you invoke on yourself if you don't attend if you don't complete in a time frame is what? Regret, shame, sense of failure, or what?
Yeah, I just feel like a failure, incompetent.
Have you ever considered adjusting it so that you don't have a time frame?
No, but the thing is, like I'm always trying to like accomplish and learn something new. So if I'm learning like a language and I'm investing time into it, I need to complete it
What's the thing you
within a certain
might be
time
have,
frame.
what how did you use the minutes that could have been used to complete it sooner differently? And do you factor those impacts of those minutes into your equation when determining how to feel about failing to meet the time frame?
I would say no.
Would it matter if circumstances outside of your control came into the equation to cause you to miss your deadline?
No.
Thoughts on this? Anybody?
Yes.
Go ahead, Nandi.
Could you ask the question again, please?
Well, the question is about failure, and Hami is basically saying he has a clear, practical definition of failure. He knows there's something he wants to do. Call that Project A. Example: learn a new programming language. He's got an expected time frame in which it's going to be accomplished because he knows he's going to be investing some time in it, and that time will be wasted unless he completes the project. And so he defines failure as a not finishing the project within the time frame he assigns himself, and he's going to feel like that's failure, regardless of whether or not it was within his control, whether some external event. Like, so he might have gotten it done, but a month from the deadline, there was a big earthquake. The internet went down, and he had to move, and his dog died, and 7 pigeons started making a nest in his hair one night when he was sleeping. And so he's had a lot of problems. As a consequence, he wasn't able to finish it. It doesn't matter to him. He's still a big failure, right? But I don't think he really cares if he's a failure. It doesn't sound to me like you beat yourself up too much. You just say, I have designated that a failure. Or do you beat yourself up?
No, I would say most of the time I do.
Oh, you do? Okay, Nandi, so the question then is, ought he, ought one, is that a good definition of failure? Is it okay to not have a time frame? Or what?
Is it okay to not have a time frame for your? Well, if you didn't have a time frame, then you wouldn't necessarily be failing anything. It's like there's no deadline to cut off, and you have to do it. So in that case, it wouldn't really be a failure for me.
Okay. Well, I mean,
But
I do have one deadline goal that I have in general, which is it's a 5-year plan, but there's no real goal at the end of the 5 years. It's to complete several things. In my mind, complete-ish, like get fully developed. This, autonomy, find an ISFJ chick, marry her, get her pregnant. I'd like to do that within 5 years because I want to have another kid, and I'd like to have it. I'd like to get the pregnancy going at least before I'm 50. If the kid's born after my 50th or whatever, that's fine. But I don't want to be. That's about this. I'm running out of time. My biological clock is ticking too. Even though old people can have kids, older men can still father kids. You stop being able to parent effectively if you're 70 years old or something.
Ticking's alright, but if it's clicking, then you might want to get that looked at.
So that's my 5-year plan. I don't think I'll feel like a failure though. If I got to the end of that 5 years and I decided on some different plan midway, that'd be fine.
I think if I decided on a different plan, as long as I accomplished the plan that I decided to change it to, then I did it.
That's important.
And my definition of failure, like, when I graduated by the time I graduated from high school, I wanted to have like I wanted to graduate summa cum laude, like the 3.9 to 4.0 GPA and all that fun stuff. But I didn't because I failed my pre-calc class. But anyway, so I ended up with a 3.8, and I consider that a failure, even though 3.8 is still technically good.
No, it's a failure, right? I don't know why we're still talking to you. I do not know why we are still talking to you. 3.8? You think that qualifies you to talk with us? I am confident that every other person in this room had over a 4.0, right? Actually, I had a 3.4 in high school, and I almost failed out of college. So continue, please. Sorry for the interruption.
Oh no, you're fine. That was it. Just if I have like a very specific way that I want to accomplish things. So like anything short of that, I consider a failure. Even in retrospect, like now that I think about it, it really wasn't a failure, but I still felt like I was failing myself. Like I knew I could have done better. I could have like studied a couple hours to get a better grade on the math test, and I didn't. And that was something that I definitely could have changed.
But why did you want to take the math class in the first place?
Because I was like, pre-calc PC is like the equivalent of an honors class, so I should take that, and it'll work better for college and all that cool crap.
But why did you want to go to college in the first place?
Why do I want to go to college?
Yeah.
Because I want to become a surgeon, so I kind of gotta.
Okay, well that's different. If you want to be a
Like, I have a
surgeon,
reason why.
that's a good reason. That's a good reason to
Yeah.
care about shit like that. But look, remember this rule when you're a surgeon. Remember host Eric's words that day long ago. The only thing that really matters is that I don't fuck this patient up, and I try my very best to heal it. Okay.
Unless you don't like them.
And even if you don't
But
like them.
I wouldn't even bother with the patient then, because I wouldn't want to do anything to them.
Yeah, just remember that you never beat yourself up for any failures that don't harm other people. Okay? That's a good rule to have. Never beat yourself up for failures that don't harm other people. It's just preventing you from doing something useful with your time. Beating yourself up is using some of those minutes. We're accustomed to thinking we have infinite time in our life and that we can choose to use it in any different way as we feel like. And, oh, no, I don't know how. There's a certain number of minutes in the day, and we have to use them concretely and productively if we want to achieve goals at all. Or we choose to use them for pleasure and hedonism and stuff, but if we are going to do that, then we make it a choice. We don't make it our master, ideally. So the bottom line is, do what you choose and choose what you do. Be a surgeon and don't kill anybody. Try to
Got
save
it.
Yeah,
I'll
those are
try to
That's
save
good.
them. I won't intentionally kill them, but if they die, I'll know that it's not my fault.
right. It's not your fault. You can
Or
blame
it might
me.
be my fault. It won't be on purpose.
Hey, listen. I'll take 1/100th of your total karma as long as you don't kill anybody intentionally. You're good. Okay. You can write that down and you can reference it later.
Okay.
I'll look forward to getting those deposits of karma in my misery bank. Any other thoughts on stuff in general? Other people talk.
I just like to talk, just to mention that she's a surgeon. She's gonna be a surgeon, so I got like a lower 1 point whatever on my GPA to such a degree that like I had like 4 or 5 Fs out of about 7 of my high school classes, and I only ended up graduating because I went to some special school that treated me better. I got my GED, so not GED, whatever it's the official crap.
Diploma.
But girl, you do whatever you want. You do you. Uh, don't let your dreams be dreams. And life is what you make it. Baby, baby, oh baby.
Thank
Is,
you.
is that the message of encouragement? Yeah, that's the message right there. Okay, took the words right out of my mouth. Um, so yeah, the thing is, I think the problem is that for people who aren't well suited to a traditional school environment, who don't actually want to be there, the problem is very simple. We have people who are forcing children to be places and do things they don't want to do. That's the problem. That simple.
I'm never going to use algebra.
Who cares about what they're doing? It doesn't even matter what they're doing with the kids. If they're forcing children to be places they don't want to be and do stuff they don't want to do day after day for a bulk of their waking hours before evening, we have a serious problem. Why are we forcing whole portions of our population in ways that we would never tolerate with adults?
Because we're forced to work to eat. So it's getting like
At least we
mentality.
get compensated. At least we have control over that, right? We are not forced to work. We are able to meet our needs by working. That's very different.
Is education not compensation?
No, they're not educating
No.
shit. Listen, the only thing they're
not.
teaching you to do is obey.
Mm.
I refuse to accept any
That's what the
notion
government wants. Though.
that I can't learn that shit faster on my own. Or I don't need to. Either I can learn it faster on my own, or I don't need to know it. Either I'm a super smart person that actually should be studying those kind of stupid things they teach in school, or I'm not, in which case I shouldn't even be doing fucking English literature and all that stupid shit. So, I don't
I did
accept the
learn more
fact...
things after school on my own
Right?
account, to be honest.
And even if
I mean, I
go ahead.
you go.
Okay, I
Oh,
was going
okay.
to say you have a certain set of moments. You have a moment in your life. You're attending to something. I'm going to use this moment to attend to this subject matter. Fine. Every moment in your life is going to be teaching you things, or your education is how are the moments of my life experience piling up to make me? Well, you're forcing me to make this pile. That's a problem. That's a problem. It doesn't matter anything else. You're forcing me to make this pile, and it's a fucking problem. I don't want to make you. This is me. You're forcing. You're saying be this. You're not saying learn this. Blah, blah. Saying be this set of shit. That's
Mm.
not what. Those aren't any of the things I would choose. The way life's supposed to be, it's like, oh look, there's a big wide world full of possibilities. Let me choose the meats and cheeses I want for my sandwich. And the way we've got it set up is everybody go to the we'll teach you what to like factory.
You would
No,
have
you
hated
goddamn it, you like
my.
bologna and cheese. You stop liking turkey right now. That's what we do with
You would have
kids.
hated. You would have hated my school life, Eric, because I didn't even get my choices of subject.
I mean, I think nobody does except for maybe one or two periods a day. Everybody has to take the core curriculum, right?
Yeah, I used to go to a high school. It shut down because it wasn't doing so well. And when I moved to the new high school for my last 2 years, there was like, do these subjects. And that was it.
Which subjects were they?
Uh, Military. I did not want to do that.
Did you learn how to be military or about military history?
Military training and medical. It was ambulance, public services basically. The other one was cooking. That was alright, but it was fun. But I didn't want to be a chef, but it was fun. At least I get to play with food, and that's all I was concerned about. Even if I didn't make disastrous masterpieces. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Because I wanted to do things like drama, acting, and so on, but I didn't get to do those.
You needed to be on a speech team.
Mm.
That's the acting version of debate. You know, nothing like competition to strengthen people. Other comments, questions, concerns, complaints, queries, or curiosities from anybody.
If school's a problem because it forces people to think a certain way, which I completely agree with you on, how much influence do you think people's parents should have over their children?
It's not a problem because it forces them to think a certain way. It's a problem because it forces them to be a certain place and it forces them to stay in that place for whatever reason. It doesn't matter what they're indoctrinating them with. It doesn't matter if they're indoctrinating them. The problem is they're forcing them to stay in one place where they don't want to be. I think parents almost never have that kind of relationship with their kids. That if they are having that relationship, it's a punishment. You're grounded. You have to stay in your room. Otherwise, parents don't say, "Sorry, you can't go from room to room randomly as you wish in the home." Of course, you have to stay in that room until the bell rings. Then you can come in the kitchen. Why?
What about indoctrinating their children to like their religions?
Well, look, I go back to the negative rights framework. If they are not preventing their kids from accessing information, they're not doing anything wrong. There's no reason why we shouldn't allow parents to start off trying to capture their kids' ideological hearts and minds. I think it's going to fail as long as we maintain the mechanisms of a transparent free society, which is to say, when we have plenty of ways for everybody to access information, when we have engaging conversations happening all around you that compel an individual to come to terms with a diversity of perspectives and to at least acknowledge the existence of, if not reconcile, contradictions between them, then it becomes very difficult to do meaningful indoctrination in any particular perspective. And my other core point is there's a set of perspectives that wins the argument at the end of the day, and there's a set that doesn't. And we see it happening issue by issue rather than society can't hang with the notion of let's skip the step by step and go straight to framework. But we see it issue by issue. So the gay marriage thing, the reason we have gay marriage is because the anti-gay marriage people lost that argument. They lost the debate. They kept getting their asses whipped on the internet. They kept trying to make their stupid arguments that didn't mean anything. They get embarrassed by people who were smart enough to say, that's fucking garbage. And here's why. Here are the logical inconsistencies. Here's what it would show you if it were true. Blah, 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 blah. Certain sets of words are subject to way more attacks and are much more difficult to defend than others. And ultimately, society will mirror that. But for a number of reasons, mostly inertia of status quo, it's going to take a long time. People aren't ready to go, all right, let's accept the new truth framework and just change everything because of that. That sounds a little scary to most people. Thoughts from anybody?
Yeah, I would say like even like right now I'm in college and the majority of stuff that I learn in class is outside the classroom. Like when I go to class, I literally just fall asleep because like you don't really learn anything in the classroom.
What field are you going into?
I'm doing econ and computer science.
Okay. How much of your class time is spent in non-econ or non-computer science classes?
I mean, I only go to class like unless like I have to. It's a minimum.
Okay. All right. Other thoughts? Other contributors to this conversation?
Thoughts on what? Sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Haberdasher. We'll get to you in a second. I think that was Nandi.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to just put in the idea that maybe some structures allowed so that I know like later in high school and junior high years, you know, like the algebra and like geometry and all that doesn't really need to be needed in life, but like the super core curriculum classes like basic addition or multiplying, subtracting, I think basic English writing, like maybe classes up to like third or fourth grade might be mandatory just to help communicate better, if that would make sense.
I think that's the sort of pragmatic compromise I would like to make as a libertarian actual politician. If I ever to actually become president, I would say, look, let's keep the little kids school. That seems to make a lot more intuitive sense. They have less of a clear sense of what they want to be doing with their time, and the things that are being taught to them are more clearly necessary things to know. So let's go ahead and keep the public schools through this. That would be a good way to segue into what I hope eventually would be an elimination of the public schools, because I'm not talking about eliminating education, right? I'm saying if we're taking all these tax dollars and building all these buildings, paying these administrators, paying these teachers, let's give that money back to the parents who have their kids and say to them, all right, you figure it out. And those parents then can pay the free market to teach their kids faster and more effectively than public schools do. I know public schools do a terrible job because I've had a child in public schools for most of her school career. In fact, I know day schools in general do a terrible job. Because Delilah, in her high school career, she had a history teacher who assigned very, very many posters. And there were posters about some history theme. And the kids were often not permitted to work on those posters in class. They were expected to, it was a claim upon her free time. But if I had demanded, and I was very nice and listened to Delilah instead of myself, if I had gone in there and said to her, you are placing demands upon my child's time equal to this many hours a week outside of class, and you are doing it to have her complete these posters. Can you explain to me how many educational impacts I'm getting out of this time? Is this really worth your claim upon her time that she has to do this? Or, fact is those fucking posters are just things to make her room look nice. She doesn't fucking care. She thinks she's doing an excellent job as a teacher because she's having the kids do lots of colorful, fun work and blah, blah, blah. While she's stealing my family's time with my child. Comments, questions, concerns?
Yeah, I would say that the only grades that are needed are elementary school and high school. Like middle school, I think is a waste of time.
Why do you need high school? High school you don't need.
Because high school is where you learn like algebra, where you learn geometry.
Okay, so then if you're
You learn
specializing in that,
American
take those
history.
educational dollars and hire specialist math teachers to teach you faster, better, and more efficiently than you will by the public schools. Then you can, if they're not a good teacher, you say, no, I'm going to take my business elsewhere. In the public schools, you don't get to do that. Oh, I got Mr. Poopy Pants. He's a terrible teacher. All he does is he has us draw pictures about math. Look, guys, we don't need to learn the math itself. We need to learn interpretations of math. I want you each now to draw a flower that represents your feelings about this aspect of trigonometry that I'm not teaching you. That's his methodology. In the public schools, you're fucked. In my method, you say, you're fired. I'm going to take my dollars elsewhere. I'm going to get a real math teacher who knows what he's doing. Parents
Yeah, I
choose.
wasn't saying whether it's public or private. I'm just saying in general.
Okay, but see, I disagree with the notion of a high school, right? I think that people should go to school if they're going to be doing that sort. They should be engaging in a learning process regardless of that age. I favor an apprentice style model for non-academic stuff. For NTs and such, yeah, they should be continuing their studying. They should figure out what specific area of study they want to focus on, and they should be hammering that shit. And they should be dealing with people who are actually really engaged in that stuff and tasked with doing real work and monetizing shit as early as possible. So they understand that there are moments of their lives produce are moments that offer potentiality to generate lasting value. And they need to choose to do so or not, but they need to do so consciously as soon as possible to be fully aware of how their actions are going to have broader impacts in their life on multiple frameworks. That needs to be taught directly.
Yeah, but the thing is, in terms of going to college, would there be a standardized education? Even if it
I
was
don't see
privatized?
why should there be. Now I'm fine with there being. I mean, I wouldn't. At least I wouldn't mess with regulations regarding surgeons and stuff like that. Will there be private organizations, private businesses that rise to compete against one another to train the most successful, most qualified, most vetted, and most trusted surgeons? Sure. Will they do a better job than public universities? They'll do as well. I think we do an abundantly over good job of training our medical professionals as it stands. Like better over good than over bad, but I mean, most time, most surgeons don't need to know half of what they know. They learn in medical school.
Yeah, what I'm saying, like, to go to college, there's a certain amount of knowledge that you need to know before you go.
It depends
There's
what
a
the
certain amount
college
of
is
knowledge that you
teaching.
need to have. And
It depends what you're learning in
so, for
college.
example, if you want to go to, like... No, I'm saying, like, before you go to college.
Okay, what I'm saying is, if
You can't just have everyone learning...
learning what?
You can't have everyone learning their own thing, and then it's like learning at their own pace or at their own learning like what they want to learn, and then they expect to go like to NYU, for example.
Okay, look, the whole admissions process is fucked up. There needs to be not. You cannot figure out a way to pick the right people that's standardized like that. It will always fail. The only way to pick the right people is to know that you picked somebody who is the right fit for the course of action you're picking them for. That's all that matters. I hired Zachary as a debate coach. He had no debate experience. And he didn't have a high school diploma. He had a GED. And he grew up in the white ghetto of Kentucky. But what I saw was none of that. Normally, no debate experience is a deal killer right there. You have no business being a debate coach. There's an exception. You're an NTP. And a particularly smart one. And in that case, I saw his brain and I was like, oh, debate brain. Perfect. You'll pick this up in about a week. And in fact, he did. He knows how to coach debate now. And he was responsible for our affirmative case in public forum. He'd never coached it before, but he's the one who came up with the strategy we went with and cut the cards and did all that stuff. Why? How could you possibly hire that person, Eric? What a terrible decision. You can't hire somebody with a G. Well, because it doesn't. None of that shit means anything. Those are symbols of competency. When you're dealing with work in which you can tell actual competency by actual results, symbols of competency become things you throw in the garbage.
Extroverted thinking. That's what you're talking about. Extroverted thinking right there.
What symbols of competency? Extroverted thinking.
Yeah, like the labeling, and like how you're like. If I had to summarize extroverted thinking in one sentence, it would be how you should do something.
NETI, extroverted thinking, and NI, pow, pow, pow. Fuck you. No fucking way can it stand up to NETI. No fucking way. Hell no. Your
TI doesn't
rules.
produce anything.
I will destroy your rules. That's my job in life. Destroying your goddamn rules. I fucking hate rules. Who
But I
else
would
hates
say
rules?
that. What do you say? So you wouldn't say like the SAT is a good
No.
measurement of
No. What are you measuring?
why?
The thing is, here's the problem. The colleges are doing the wrong thing. They really need people who are going to sort of intellectually and ideologically fall in line with the party line there and just sort of walk along the liberal arts lie path. I'm talking about liberal arts college. Okay, forget science and stuff you need big machines for and shit like that. Forget that stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about liberal arts. What do they need? What makes you a successful person at a liberal arts college getting an English degree? Well, there's your problem number one. Success doesn't mean anything. You haven't done any real work. You can't point to anything when you're done with it and say, look, I accomplished this in these 4 years. Except this piece of paper you got. And you say, well, what did you accomplish? Well, I read these books and wrote these papers. Oh, and who published those papers? Well, no one. They're just practice papers. Well, why didn't you just write real papers during that 4 years? What do you mean real papers? Well, you have all the means in the world available to publish things to you. If it's worth writing about, then surely people will want to read about it. No one wants to read about my paper on socialism and the Scarlet Letter. Well, right. That means you shouldn't be writing about it because it's fucking stupid, right?
I mean,
How about,
if you're gonna major in English, I don't think you should be going to college unless you're going to law school later on.
but then why not major in law as an undergrad? Why is law not an undergraduate degree? I can master the fucking bar in 4 years, no problem. Piece of cake. 3, 2. I can do it in a year. I can name that tune in 1 year. Fucking symbols of confidence. That's why TE. Well, let's forget that these symbols and pathways are supposed to be representative of what we actually care about, and mistake the cart for the horse. You know.
I feel like extroverted thinking is just it. Essentially, if you have the validation of extroverted thinking, so let's say you go to college for 8 years to get your degree or something, I feel like you've just validated your work ethic rather than your actual competency.
I wouldn't agree with that.
What
It
part
depends on
of
what you're majoring in.
I feel like it's more. I feel like any human being with a good work ethic can succeed in public school or in college.
I wouldn't say so.
I think that what happens if you have a good work ethic, but you're not designed for academic work, and you're compelled to do that, and your parents say, no, you must go to college to be a success, even though really you're meant to do shit like race cars or whatever. What ends up happening is that your work ethic is misplaced. You're telling yourself, I've got to be a good person and do the shit I'm not supposed to do. That's it, but you're wrong. They're wrong. Your parents are lying to you. They are wrong. They're not lying to you. They're wrong. You know? They're wrong, and they convince you to be wrong, and then you're planning right now, your big plan is to go convince your kids to be wrong too. It's like, let's keep doing this fucking stupid thing. Let's keep perceiving the symbols of competence as the same thing as competence itself. All we need is zero sum the shit out of everything. Then symbols of competence become meaningless. Zero sum. Win, loss. You and your Harvard degree and everything, and all your other credentials and all your papers and your fancy car and your fancy clothes, you can come and bring your debate students and debate my debate students. And all that shit has nothing to do with who's going to win this contest. And therefore, it doesn't matter. You're not going to fool people for very long in this business. You can talk about all your credentials you want. If your kids are losing all the time, parents are going to stop going to your school. That's how everything needs to be.
Can I mention that I've learned more stuff this day on the, like just this session alone than most of any of my high school days.
And why?
Yeah,
Just because you're having real conversations with real people based on your own desire to be here. If you weren't here, Mr. Haberdasher, I wouldn't send you a tardy slip or an absent note or say, hey, why weren't you here the other day? I wouldn't try to guilt you or anything like that. I wouldn't even think about it. It's on your terms, right? That allows you to join and learn as you see fit, and just to call whatever you take away from this as learning, or as Eric being hilariously wrong, or whatever you want to interpret it as. Because on your terms, you're making the
I feel
decision.
like that would be a lot more applicable to NT types or NTP types in general than SJ types. I feel like SJ types do a lot better in a structured environment like that.
Okay, but then why are we forcing them to do a bunch of academic stuff? That's
I
not where
don't
they
know.
really belong, right? We're saying, yes, you can apply yourself really well to this thing you're not supposed to be doing. So great job. No, wrong job, bad job, horrible job. You should be applying yourself to the thing you are supposed to be doing instead. And just because your parents value this doesn't mean you ought to be doing it yourself. And we got to unteach you the lies. That's how I feel about it. But then
I
and
never
if
had the problem of parents saying do this or do that. They always just said to me, do whatever the hell you want to be good at.
Mr.
I'd
Haberdasher,
high five you.
I'm sorry, say again. I didn't catch that
Me?
part. No, Mr. Haberdasher, you cut out. I'm sorry, say again.
I just said like I could totally relate. I'd high five him if this is real.
So both of your parents said do whatever the fuck you want?
No, I don't have parents. I just had the philosophy of do whatever the fuck I want.
You don't have parents? Did you ever?
Oh, this is quite a story.
You're an alien?
Pop and me went to a jury system trying to get mother technically kidnapped me by law of state, bunch of crap, and yeah,
Who raised you? Wolves?
my aunt and uncle, because when my dad tried to get rid of me, my aunt fought for me in court, and she actually won and got custody of me and my brother.
Good for her. I'm glad to hear it. This makes me think NFPs maybe are less attended to in childhood than ENTPs. May not play out as a correlation of a larger pool of data, but it's just a thought. Other thoughts from anybody about anything?
Back to the childhood thing. As a child ENTP, I was never capable of fully respecting authority on authority's own terms. I was never capable of doing that. So like if I ever got like chased down and like not beat, but like with a belt or something, I would be thinking in my head as if like an adult beating the shit out of another adult would feel when my parents would beat me. I'd be like, what the fuck? Why are you hitting me? Why are you doing this? Can we not discuss this? Can we not have some kind of
Your,
more
par- your
efficient
parents
way of solving this problem?
your parents hit you with a belt?
Yeah, that happened occasionally. It didn't happen a lot because I would fucking literally run. I would like run to the woods and fucking hide. I would not do that shit. I couldn't do it. I could not do
It
punishment.
used to happen. I remember the Porter family. They did that in their family. That I remember my friend Dave Porter hearing his dad stand on the porch say, "Get home, David," and then hearing later that David had gotten the belt. And but it didn't happen very often. Again, like you say, it was a big event. And he must have done something terribly bad or whatever is the thinking. And everybody just sort of accepted. Well, that's how they do things, and that's how they discipline their kids. That's fine. And it sounds to me like you think that. I think it's probably fairly normal where you live that sometimes parents use corporal punishment. Personally, I've never used corporal punishment against my child, and my parents never used it against me. They would have things like they would do things like make me write an essay explaining why what I did was bad.
Do you think you respond well as having to do with being an ENTP, I guess, on these terms? Do you think you respond well to authority figures, as if just respecting them just because they are an authority figure, as a child or throughout childhood?
As a child, I didn't have much problem with authority at all. Authority didn't try to check me very much. I didn't encounter a lot of opportunities to be defiant to authority. When I got to high school, I did things like refuse to stand up during the Pledge of Allegiance and make a fuss because certain books in the library were you're supposed to get your parents' permission to read them. And of course, I didn't care what it was about. I wanted to go read it right then, and I made a big fuss about it. I wrote for the newspaper and wrote confrontational shit that they published. My newspaper editor guy, teacher guy, let me get away with all kinds of crazy shit. I'm surprised, but in retrospect, I just sort of started thinking about it not that long ago. I'm Facebook friends with somebody who was one of the editors on the newspaper when I was there, and she shared an article with me. Anyway, so I did get very confrontational with authority once I got into puberty. Prior to puberty, I got along with authority quite well.
Yeah, that's exactly how I was. I remember there's one incident, and it's really vivid in my head. There was several. I mean, it was a constant thing. I'll have to get in trouble for disruption and things. It was just constant. But one time, I called my teacher a cunt. One of my biology teacher, because she said I was arguing in her class about what was going on in the Baltimore riots and stuff, and somebody said something really fucking stupid, like referencing some like Fox News or something, and I called them out on their bullshit. And I was like, do you really think they're going to show on Fox News all of the peaceful protesters or anything like that? And eventually I just got into a fucking big argument. And literally the teacher said some dumb shit, and some kid said the N-word, and she let it happen. She didn't get onto him. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you not going to do anything about this? Are you going to let these people just say racial slurs in the middle of your fucking class? And she was like, well, it doesn't offend me, so I don't care. And I was like, so we're allowed to say shit that might offend somebody? And she was like, yeah. And I said, well, you're fucking cunt. And she fucking...
I knew where that was going. Fuck yeah, it's called turning the mechanism. Good job. You do it instinctually, too, because you're an ENTP. So
yeah,
what did he do? He found something he thought was going to be objectionable. He got her to confirm that she didn't find it objectionable, and therefore took that mechanism, turned the logic, and said, well, if that's the case, then blah, 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 blah. That's fucking straight up ENTP gut instinct reflex. That's what we do. We make it about the other guy and challenge their ethics. That's a great story, and I hope she's tried to send you to the principal, and I hope you explained. My teacher apparently doesn't understand the mechanism here, Judge. Those were all conditional statements. I merely said if what you said were true, and you confirmed that it is, from your perspective, then surely it must be okay for me to say this. Now, if that's only me even actually making a statement, if the first part of the conditional is true, and the first part of the conditional is true, then she's the problem, not me. So what are you going to do with that, principal? Like, that's straight up fucking ENTP gold. That's what I bet that didn't exactly happen like that, but that's what I wish did. Tell me, Trenton, what's the next part of the story? Did you get sent to the office?
No, like as soon as she said she was going to kick me out, I said if you kick me out of this class, as soon as I get to the office, I'm tailing on your ass. I'm telling the principal that you allowed some child say the N-word, and she was like, you come out here, and she got me out of the class, and she was like, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? And I was like, listen, if you fucking send me the principal, I'm fucking telling him what you did. And she just said, you need to just calm down. We're going to go back in class. We're just going to sit down and calm down, okay? And I was like, all right, fuck, whatever.
So Trenton here, he kind of sold his soul in the way the ENTPs do, a lot. Which is, he doesn't really care about policing people's language in that fashion, but he utilized that in order to win that fight. And in this case, that's an argument eventually he won't make anymore because he'll be too fixated on making the argument that the language shouldn't have been policed in the first place.
Yeah.
So, I mean, here's the deal. Like, it makes me angry. I've already resolved to myself, and this is going to be the only time I ever say it, just for this one reference point. I will not say the N-word, okay? If I ever have good enough cause to say the N-word, I'll actually say it. I don't find myself having any cause to say it. I'm not afraid to say it, but I don't want to say it just for the point of saying it. So, but I will never say those words again that you just said. I will never use that euphemism, because that euphemism, to me, is the worst racial slur of all. It's the slur that says, not only does race exist, but it affords certain linguistic privileges that you don't have. To which I say, fuck you. Right? I don't like policing language at all. It makes me very, very fucking angry. But I'm not busting your chops or anything. I'm just riffing off what you. Well, you know, yeah, I don't need to FE dance for other ENTPs. They get it.
I didn't. If it was contextually relevant, like if the kid would have said it and there was some kind of contextual relevance calling for it, but he just used it in a blatantly negative way, then it's the only use of the word was to harm and to be.
Okay, but Trenton, let me ask you this. Now, let's say it played out differently. Instead of the teacher not busting his chops, the teacher had come down too hard on him. What do you think you would have done?
I would have, in my head, I would have weighed it out whether or not the context of which. See, I've always found myself being.
Lies, Trenton. You would have gone straight into defense attorney mode. You would have been like, you need to respect that person's rights to say whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, I would have been a little bit. I think I would have been a little bit more contemplative because at that point, if I would have jumped into that position. See, I have a problem where when I argue about something, and I'll get somebody will be on the opposite side of me, and I'll find myself having to actually act like I believe what I'm saying to an extent that I'm really on this side. And so when it gets to that point, and to where defending, in my head I'm like, that person should be able to say that. I couldn't say that because that would invalidate the argument I had a few minutes ago.
Right.
So I would have to just stop myself.
Right. I know, but I'm just saying yeah, exactly. Why couldn't you make that argument? Not because it's true, false, right, wrong, or whatever, but because it would be inconsistent with your former argument. It would open you up to argumentative vulnerability on this front. That's ENTP existence right there in a nutshell, and it's beautiful to hear it echoed in another human being so identically. ENTPs are, I think, the easiest people to type, for me, obviously, because I am one, but I think in general we're probably the easiest people to type. We seem like, I know immediately when I start talking to one, oh, you're one of me. You're straight up Eric, you know?
Just look for the social awkwardness.
Yeah, right. See, eccentric M, you and your, like, I'm not going to say much, but those 5 words are going to have a nice impact. I like that. Okay, and this is coming to a close. We're a good length, 47 minutes. Thank you for watching Talking with Famous People. Bye-bye.